Welcome to the Unfiltered Duo podcast. I'm Carrie.
And I'm Cheryl.
And this is how the unfiltered chaos makes sense. Hi, Unfiltered listeners. We are here today with Scott. Scott is not Cheryl, just in case you didn't notice that. Cheryl couldn't make it this week, so we are subbing Scott in as our guest today. And I would just like to give you a big shout out for coming on to the podcast this week. So thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you very much.
We're definitely happy to have you here. Um, we'd like to introduce Scott to us. So, Scott, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Absolutely. So my name's Scott, obviously. I am Cheryl's notorious husband, which you guys have heard a lot about. So I'm very happy to be on the show.
Well, welcome. Um, so I think Cheryl's mentioned you guys have been married 20 years at this point.
22.
22. 22 years. How do you feel about that, Scott?
It's been a journey. We've been together since we were 15 years old, though. So she's my high school sweetheart, and 22 years of marriage. We've grown a lot together, and we've raised a very great life and really good children. So I think it's been really well.
That's wonderful. I think that kind of leads into the topic that we're talking about tonight, and it's mentoring.
Yep.
Because I've known you for a couple years now, and throughout those years, you have really talked about how you love expressive mentoring and receptive mentoring,
Yep.
and even mentoring when it's kind of like flying under the radar, if you will.
Absolutely. So, I mean, mentorship to me is it's both ways. It's you're just as much as a mentor as you're a mentee. And any kind of relationship when it comes to mentorship is just that. It's foundationally a relationship. So yeah, I'm excited about having this conversation.
Good. And I'm going to tell you, you need to relax.
Okay.
You are too uptight. This is not the Scott that I normally talk to. You're on the Unfiltered Duo
Thank you.
podcast. Take a deep breath,
I will.
take another drink,
All right.
sit into it, relax. This is,
Cheers.
yes, we'll do official real cheers. Cheers,
Cheers.
sir. It is rude if you do not drink.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just because Cheryl's not here, somebody has to keep you in line.
Yeah, that's true.
So you're welcome, Cheryl.
That is very true.
Okay, so question number one, we did, this is our first guest, so of course we sent out some questions. So this is going to deviate just a little bit, but I hope we can really get into the spirit of the Unfiltered Duo and have a lot of a good conversation about this
Okay.
as I bring up questions. So the first question was, can you tell us and our listeners about a mentor who made a significant impact on your life or career?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in some of y'all's previous podcasts, and I probably should have talked about this during the opening, but my background is I'm military. So I've been active duty military for 22 years now. And so along the way growing up, I never had anybody that I was like, oh, I want to be like that person. And so even as a kid, I had a lot of friends that would look up to athletes or look up to teachers and or even, other parents or friends, family friends, and I never had that person. And I think it was mainly because I looked at everyone and I never found anybody that I would consider perfect. And so I always looked at the negative qualities in people instead of like the positive qualities. And so I knew what I didn't want to be like, but I didn't know what I wanted to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And so fast forward, one of my first mentors, I would have to say, was when I was enlisted. And I had just came out of tech school, and I was not only was I a troubled teen growing up, but I got in trouble early on in the military. And so going to my first duty station, there was a report that came out, and the report wasn't all positive about me. Even though I'd done well academically, the report itself wasn't positive. And so my very first supervisor sat down with me and he looked at it and he was like, "Hey, are we going to have any problems?" And I was like, "No, sir." And we went through the kind of report, he asked my side of the story and everything, and he told me, he said if you work hard for me, he was like, this will never follow you further in your career. And he was like, if you take care of business, I'll make sure I take care of you. And that transpired into just a fruitful relationship with my first supervisor. So I'd say that was probably the first mentor that I really realized that he walked the journey with me, and he walked alongside me, and he showed me the ropes, and he taught me, and he was a man of his word. And it really helped me transpire into who I am today, because it wasn't that one fault or that one mistake or the couple mistakes or whatever that followed me through my career. And
Mhm.
so I'd say that was probably the first moment that I realized that people do have your best interest, and they do want to see you succeed.
Yeah. And it wasn't like an express, like, I'm going to mentor you. He probably never said anything like that
Yep.
to you. It was just a kind of a take you by the hand and like, hey, let's walk this journey. Let me show you the steps that you need to take, kind
Yep.
of a thing. It wasn't like a sit down formal
Yeah, I mean, he was my
experience.
formal supervisor, so it was formal in the nature that, he was looking at my evaluation, but no, at no point did I ask him to be my mentor, or he said, I'm going to be your mentor. Like, it
Hmm.
was it was very unsolicited. It was offering. And so, and I think that's important when we're talking about mentorship is you can only guide somebody so far. They have to be able to walk that journey and that path with you along the way. And so having that offering up front, it made me really take a moment and reflect, and was like, maybe this is a path for me. And so, yeah, that was my first moment. I'd say another one, this is more recent, that was, so fast forward, I opened up and I said I never had somebody that I looked up to or wanted to be like. Recently, within the last several years, I did meet one person. First person in my life, I was like, oh my God, I want to be like this person. And I shared that with this individual, and, kind of solicited that mentorship. This was very solicited. I wanted to follow their footsteps. I wanted to, be like this person, etc. Because the person just exuded confidence and power when they were in a room. They spoke well, etc. And so, however, it's really interesting. Now I sit here today, and given that, time and distance has came between me and this individual, uh, I don't feel that that person has continued their mentorship the way I would expect it.
Hmm.
And so for me, that's kind of, again, made me take a self-reflection of what I want to be like, in the role of a mentor as well as in a role of a mentee, to continue that relationship and continue that journey, whether it's solicited or unsolicited, even if it's just like check-ins. And I think this is just with any type of relationship.
Yeah. So when you were talking about the first person who your formal supervisor, if you will, who was giving you some of the guidance early on, what made you open up to that person? Because I can guarantee you there was a lot of people before this person that tried, and you probably either you missed it, you weren't paying attention, or you weren't open to it. So what at that point was just like, oh, this is something I need to pay attention to because I guarantee you, you're not the only one in.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it was the fact that it just felt like an honest conversation at the very beginning. It wasn't judgmental.
Mhm.
And, growing up, I felt like all my actions, were very judged. And so for me, this was like the first moment, 19-year-old, 20-year-old me, that somebody looked at me and looked at what was on paper and didn't judge me for what was on paper. And, so I think in a way, I wanted to challenge that. Like, I
Mhm.
wanted to see, is this person authentic? Is this person real? If I really walk along, learn from him and grow from him, is he going to be a man of his word? And so I think that's really what kind of sparked it off.
Okay, I like that, the non-judgmental aspect, because he looked at you in a non-judgmental way, and I'm sure you can take that. Like, I know we're going to get into like us growing as mentors to other people, but it's just like how you have turned to now look at other people and not judge them.
Yes.
So I think that I'm gonna write that down to circle around later on to judgment because I like that. I like that idea. And I always spell judgment wrong because the French people spell it with an E and the English people don't spell it
Don't
with
ask me
an E.
how to
And
spell
it,
anything.
yeah,
You
no,
know that.
it's rough out here.
It is.
Okay, second question. Um, how has, well, I could, I guess we're moving to us being more mentors now rather than the people who mentored us. But what or how, let's see, how has mentoring shaped your personal or professional growth over time? So, how has mentoring shaped your, well, let's say professional growth, and then we'll do personal growth.
Yeah. So professionally, men becoming a mentor is a decision. It's a choice. The military professionally, puts me in leadership roles. I started enlisted. I rose through the ranks of enlisted to those that are military listening. So I became an E6, which is a tech sergeant, then got commissioned as an officer. So now as a lieutenant colonel, and any officer, you're automatically put in the leadership roles. However, though, becoming a mentor is a choice. And so I think along that path, so on the military again, we'll talk professional. It teaches you the core values. So for the Air Force, the core values are integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. As a young airman, those words were just words. They didn't have values because I didn't tie them to me as a person. And a lot of times when I heard them as a young airman, I was like, oh, great. Now somebody's just telling me the core values again. And so, but as I grew older and in my personal life, we had children, and I started thinking about what kind of dad I wanted to be and what kind of husband and father. Those core values actually became part of my core values as a person. And so, as fast forward, when you tie that into the professional life and you exude that in the way you walk, the way you act, the way you talk to people, that opens the door to mentorship. And a lot of the things that I've noticed was very few times do people come to you and say, "Hey, I want you to be my mentor." It's usually this conversation that usually starts with, "Oh man, I like how you said that," or "I like what you're thinking," or "I like the direction you're going," or "How did you do this?" And it was those those sideways, excuse me, those hallway conversations that really started to transpire over years. And I would get a call 2, 3, 5 years after the fact of I said something one afternoon in a session, or, I talked about how I did this or did that. And I realized that the mentorship became very organic, and not solicited. And so I think that's what really just pushed me to go out there and provide those opportunities and advice. Whether you see somebody struggling, whether you see somebody that wants to excel, and there's time and place for those. And I know Cheryl talks about time and place all the time, but that's probably the difference that I try to bring into a leadership role in my professional life. So, but personally, I would say, on my personal side, my kids will definitely say this. Every teenager that comes through our house, we have certain rules. One, they come into the house, they have to say hello, they have to introduce themselves because they're in your house as a guest. That's a respect thing. And then the second one is I ask all of them, what's your plans? And they're not coming to me. Some of them don't know me, some of them do know me, but I do that purposely because I want them to know that people care. Because you don't know how that's going on in their home life. But when you come into my house and our house, I want you to know that I care. I care about you as a person. I care about your future, and I'm excited. Like I get so excited seeing the young people, and I feel like an old man even saying that. But the young people having young adults as kids, but to see where they're going and see their future.
No, I mean, I like that. I like that you've laid out the rules and that, I mean, you're as far as I've seen it, your kids know those rules and they come and they really do introduce their friends and they talk to you and you're not just some Charlie Brown parent voice in the background. Like you do like to make it a welcoming home for people who need to be there. So, yes, being welcoming, non-judgmental. And I would say like something that I've seen out of it is you're definitely willing to listen. And like teenagers come up with crazy ideas sometimes. And like we've all just kind of, you do the head tilt when they're talking because you're like, that's probably not going to happen ever. But like you're definitely willing to at least start that conversation with teenagers and the young adults. So it's definitely something I've seen that you have fostered over
Yeah.
the time that I've known you.
I did have to ask you, what's a Charlie Brown voice though? What's the Charlie Brown parent voice?
You don't know the Charlie Brown parent
I
voices?
don't.
What? Like, I feel like you know so much more like social like experiences than I do. So this is amazing.
Yeah,
It's caught on camera
I'm
too.
gonna have to look up the Charlie Brown
Like on
parent
Charlie
voice.
Brown, like they're all kids.
Yeah,
So Charlie Brown has normal conversations with everyone, Lucy Linus,
yeah.
like all those people. But when they walk into their house and their parents are talking, it's like wah, 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 wah,
Ah,
like in the
I've
background.
never noticed it.
You've never
No,
noticed
I've
it?
never even noticed it or
Oh,
noticed the reference. But I
no.
know once you explain it, I know what you're talking about, but I've never noticed it.
Oh, no. Okay. So consider yourself not a Charlie Brown parent voice.
Absolutely. That's
I-
good. I don't want to wah 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 wah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I hope you're not just making fun of me right
No, I'm
now for
not. I'm
doing
really
that.
not.
Okay.
I really, I was, that was, when you were talking, that was the one thing I was like, Charlie Brown parent voice. It was like, is that like a monotone voice? Or is that just like a, I mean, I knew the context. Obviously, it was a voice in the background. You didn't
Yeah,
see the
I
face.
understood that.
So
Yeah. No, that's funny. Okay. So, question 4 is what does a healthy and effective mentor-mentee relationship look like to you?
I think a healthy mentor-mentee relationship is when it starts, to me, it starts with the mentee. And it starts with the mentee because as the old saying goes, you can guide a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink.
Mhm.
And that is probably the hardest thing because there's so many young individuals. There's so many of my peers, there's so many of my senior leaders that there's so much potential there, but then you don't see them given that effort. And so even when you provide the unsolicited advice, if they're not willing to accept it or they're not in a moment to receive that information, you're wasting your time and you're wasting their time.
Mhm.
And so I think it really starts with that. A healthy relationship starts with the mentee. And that mentee needs to, one, be receptive of it, but then a healthy relationship on the mentor side is to give the tough love. And I think that's another piece that a lot of time when we talk about mentorship, we don't talk about the mirror, should you say, where you're actually not only taking a look at yourself and how you're walking in your life and how you're acting, but having them do that own self-reflection and then being able to show them where they're going off path. And I think so that's probably the hardest point, but whenever you come across those barriers and are you tackle those barriers, should you say, and you build that trust, the relationship between the mentee and mentor winds up blossoming because trust is built, transparency is built. It doesn't become transactional. It becomes very much a relationship, and it becomes where you can also provide constructive feedback, timely feedback, and then when something later on, if they know that you have that best interest, they're going to reach out to you. Hey, this happened today. Or they're not going to be afraid to say um, that, hey, I don't know if I did this right. And I think vice versa, though, another piece that I'll bring into mentorship is from a leadership perspective, is being a little vulnerable. A lot of leaders, a lot of people that want to say that they're mentor, they they try to come across in a very polished way in which they don't have any faults. And that's the quickest way for somebody to see through you and not build that relationship. So there's times that it's healthy to say, I failed. I didn't give you the right advice. I didn't, guide you on the right path, or you taught me something today. So there's that level of vulnerability that's really important in a healthy relationship.
No, I like that. And something that I was thinking while you were talking was like there is an aspect of willing to admit when you've gone wrong too. Like if the mentor, if something happens and they're like, well, that didn't work out, it's like being honest about that with the mentee. Just being like, hey, I was trying to follow my own advice and I was doing this, that, and there's some pitfalls to my own advice. So, like, as much as you can do to encourage and keep that person in a positive path, like, there has to be hey, there's some pitfalls ahead of you.
Yeah, and
Like,
I think you bring up a good point there as well, that you shouldn't invest all your time in one mentor. Obtaining advice from multiple people is really important, because again, one person doesn't have all the right answers. And then you can actually balance out that level of advice and figure out what path you want to choose. Because if you go after one path and let's say that path isn't the best path for you, and then that mentor, let's say they're selfish enough or arrogant enough that they don't admit their own faults or their own, guidance mistakes. At least when you have multiple vices, you can take that onus on yourself. Ultimately, that's your decision, but you don't feel like somebody guided you the wrong way.
right. Um, I will so I was a long-term sub for multiple years. And sometimes you're on a team of teachers
Mhm.
and you're teaching multiple that you'll get their class and you switch classes and so you're working with that team, but then there's a broader team and it really does give you, well, this teacher has this style and this teacher has this style and this teacher has, there's all these different styles of teaching and ways of handling various situations that arise
Yep.
in the classroom. And so it really matters who you go to for that advice, what kind of advice you're going to get. So you can also kind of choose the path that best fits you when you're looking for that mentor and you're looking for that advice.
Fun fact and part of military culture is we actually categorize different leaders in that same way. But you have your laissez-faire leaders,
Hmm.
you have your transactional leaders, and then you have your transformational leaders. And so your laissez-faire are a lot of the ones that they're just okay with status quo. And it's really interesting. Majority of the culture um, in a lot of professions are, I would say, a lot of laissez-faire. There's a lot of what I like to jokingly say. There's a lot of sheeps. Like the whole concept, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Or I think that's how it goes. I probably just messed that all up, but something to that nature. But needless to say, that's not me. I'm always looking for something that's broken and some way to fix things, because I'm big into process improvement and continuous improvement and Lean Six Sigma and all the fun project management style stuff. Like that's my mindset, because I'm always thinking there's a better way to do things.
Okay, I like that. Like, find the type of mentor that really speaks to you
Yes.
because there's there's nothing worse than feeling inauthentic yourself. Like there is an aspect of fake it till you make it kind of a thing where, yeah, fake it till you make it. Get out there, try really hard. If that's like a personality trait that you want, fake it till you make it. Like learn how to do it. If you're not confident in that, fake it till you make it. But there is a line that you have to draw that's like, well, that's just not me. That's not my personality. That's not how I'm going to be able to handle things going forward. So yes.
You see the fake it till you make it a lot. Again, I gotta go back to the military. It's because you're trained to be a certain way, so when they break you down and they train you to be that way. And what's really interesting as you're growing up in the military, you find that a lot of people are two different people. Who they are in uniform and who they are at work is not who they're all outside of work. And I was that same way. Like there was so many things in my private life and my personal life that I hid from my work life because I had to be this way at work. but then inside of me, I wasn't that person.
Hmm.
But then again, I think as I matured as a father, as I matured as a husband, I realized that there was a point in which I wanted to be that same person. Like I wanted to be that same person all the time. I wanted to be that authentic person. And it takes so much stress off of you when you become that just authentic person, like where this is who I am, this is who you're going to get. And going into my next job that I'm going into, I went into the interviews for my next job in that same mindset. Like I didn't take a whole lot of time to practice for the interview questions and stuff like that because I wanted to be authentic. I wanted them to know who they were receiving. So I think that's really important that, you start to look at that as well when you're picking your mentor out or even as a mentee is making sure that that person matches your energy
Hmm.
and who you are as a person so that you can become your authentic self.
Yeah, I like that. There was a side story because I like tangents, but I used to be a really professional photographer and I would get hired by organizations to do events. And a buddy of mine hired me to do an event that he was running. He is basically the fundraiser for this organization. And he's like, I need somebody to go to take pictures of this so I can give them to the donors. And I'm like, cool, I'm there. And so it's a grand gala kind of thing. It's black tie. There's lots of military because this was a military organization. And I mean, there was like four-star generals kind of thing. Sorry, I've had dinner with lots of fun people in the military. But they're all getting seated, they're finding their tables. I'm milling around getting, I call it glad handing the high rollers. So I'm, getting to know the people that are there. And I catch my buddy. He's like walking two little old ladies to their table. And he's being so nice and so polite to them. And I'm watching him. I'm like, huh, I should go introduce myself to Nice Friend because I don't know Nice Friend. I was like, I don't think I've ever seen him be so nice to people. I was
Yeah.
like, those ladies must have a lot of money. Like, I was like, so yeah, I definitely see where it's like your work self can be very different than the person at home.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was so blown away. I was like, why is he being so nice? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I still catch myself all the time. I mean, Cheryl laughs at me because a phone call comes in and she's like, I know it's a work phone call or it's a personal phone call. And she's like, your tone changes, your attitude changes, and vice versa. Again, I think it's important part of being a mentor is again constantly doing a self-reflection on yourself. And, whether that's the tone, whether it's your attitude, way you approach things. I've been told before, you're gonna laugh at this, but I've been told before that I can come across abrasive or direct, and that's never my intent. So it was, my last, I would say my last assignment. Yeah, my last assignment when I kind of got that feedback, and that feedback came, and it was an after hours event, and somebody was like, it was like, oh my God, I've never saw this side of you. You're always, their exact words was, you're always so professional and put together. But I think you got to see a little bit of that side of me as well, going to my promotion ceremony,
mhm.
so there is a balance to it. And but I think again, it's it's the timing. It's when everybody has to put on a face sometimes,
Mhm.
given the situation.
So time and place.
I didn't want to say that again because it's said all the time.
You were there though. I
I
saw it. It
was.
was coming out. You're like, no, I can't do
I
it.
did.
Okay, let's see. Some of these questions kind of have overlapped with things that we've already discussed. Let's see. Oh, have you thought about common challenges that you've encountered mentoring? And do you have a situation maybe where you have overcome those challenges, big, little, any sort of, and maybe even in your relationship, excuse me, with mentors? Like, have there been challenges, mentors or mentees, either way?
Yeah.
Go.
So there's a couple of them. So I'm gonna do it as a mentee first. So I think one of the challenges I learned early on as a mentee was not thinking big enough. And what do I mean by that? So I've always been a critical thinker. I've always, like, even as a kid, I wanted to know like how things were put together, or I want to know how I can solve a problem. And so as a young airman, when I was faced with some of these challenges, I felt defeated so many times by people that I thought were mentors or I thought were leaders or I thought they were in this position of power or ability to make changes. And you would bring them something, an innovation or an idea or something that you saw within from your vision that was so, eye-opening or glaring that would make this, big impact or change, whatever it was. And you you got defeated because you never got that support. And so that was something that opened my eyes that not everybody thinks big. Not everybody thinks second and third order effects. And so I think that was one of the pieces that I learned, a lesson I learned as a mentee. As a mentor, I learned that mentorship is not senior to junior. Mentorship is not about, has nothing to do with age, it has nothing to do with rank. It has it is simply at the foundation a relationship. And so I did not realize that, again, being in such a rank structured organization, until probably the last, I'd say, 5 years. I mean, I always felt like I had this mentorship amongst my peers, um, because we would challenge each other. And that's one of the reasons I went into the career field I was in, because when I went to the schooling for it, I'm a healthcare administrator by trade, but so I went to the schooling for it and I was like, oh my God, I'm around all these people that they were driven, they were motivated. And like, I still to this day believe it's the best job in the Air Force. So I always felt that I had that mentorship amongst the peers, but I never felt like I could mentor up, because I was too junior ranking. And it wasn't until, like I said, in the last 5 years that I realized that there's a lot of opportunities that you get to be able to mentor leaders, whether even if it's a general. Like, the more you, a friend of mine told me this, and I'll give you this advice, or I'll leave this advice. Said we were out at my last base, Columbus Air Force Base. We have afternoon sessions, and it was one day after executive meeting, and we were griping about what had happened in that particular meeting. And he looked at me and he said he said, Scott, he was like, do you are you the smartest person in the room? And I was pretty aggravated, and I'm a little bit arrogant, and so I was like, well, that's a loaded question, I can't answer that question right now. And he said, if you're the smartest person in the room, he was like, go find you a different room. Fast forward, I found a different room. In my current job, my other job that I just came from, I was surrounded by people that just wanted to make a difference. They were, very smart, very intelligent, and I realized though that when you found that room, mentorship was all over. It was down, it was up, it was lateral, and then you built those relationships that you constantly could reach back to those people. So I think that was another very healthy lesson for me to learn.
Yeah, and I bet you didn't consider that person an express mentor in your life either.
Yeah, that's that unsolicited advice.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things. I mean, even in the spirit of this, the whole dynamic between us as two couples and the duo, should we call it, is that we've become mentors and advisors to each other. Even you as a mother, you as a friend, you know, you've taught me a whole lot. And that's one of the things I love hanging out with you, and your husband, and is because you see things different, you look at things different, you challenge me, you give me a different perspective. So thank you for being a mentor to me.
Welcome. I mean, I feel the same way. Like I mean, we have traveled around the world at this point, and it's like, I think from the first trip to the cruise this past summer, like, there is a lot that we have all brought to the table that we have taught each other. And whether it's like how to deal with friends in frustrating moments when we're going the wrong way on, public transportation, or
Happens.
when, yeah, who knows? Or just even those like really happy moments when like a plan has come together and we can all celebrate in that plan and have a good time and just or the times where like somebody has stepped in when other people get frustrated and just taken over and take, yeah, there is just a lot, even in friendships, that, yeah, we've brought to the table as a group that I think has really elevated our life in
Yep.
general. So, yeah, like, I feel like there can be the express mentors that, yeah, you're looking for somebody in a career field that's going to bring you up and bring you along with them. But even in life, like, you need to find those people who are going to inspire you. And when you find those people who inspire you, you have to find a way to hold on to them and keep them in your life.
Yep.
So, yeah, definitely look for express mentors and look for the hidden mentor, if you will. Maybe that's the title of this podcast because I don't have a good title yet. What are we going to title it? Okay. Ooh. Do you think that there are top qualities that every mentor should have? I mean, I've been kind of keeping a list. The non-judgmental, and then you said vulnerable. So those are the two I have kind of clocking. If you want to
Yeah, I think
expound on those, you can.
I think a couple other ones is, empathy is really important. Um, if you're familiar with the Myers-Briggs personality test, etc. So another one that's a little bit easier we've done in the military quite a lot is called color test. And so the color test basically just breaks you down in more simplistic terms, whether instead of having 16 categories in Myers-Briggs, you have four. So you're a green, and that means you're like a very analytical, data-driven thinker. You're an orange, which means you're very outgoing, extroverted. Blue is going to be a little bit more introverted, but more to touch with your feelings, being personal. And then gold is your black and white people. Like they follow the rules. There's rules for a reason kind of people. Yes, you're a gold. I could tell by your smile you're gold. But anyway, I'm more of an orange. But it's interesting because every time I've done these personality tests, I've always blue was like my lower one. And it always bothered me because I do care about people. And, so I try to be empathetic, but at the same time, I'm not the empathetic and the person like if you come into my office and you're crying about something, it's really hard for me to connect with you. And it's mainly because it's hard for me to connect with emotions. When it comes to really sad emotions or overly angry emotions. So when they're expressed emotions, those are hard. But at the same time, I've really, really focused on that as a mentor is to be empathetic. Because and it's taught me that even especially having teenage children as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because when their world's crashing down, my immediate reaction is, oh my God, like this is first world problems, like this is not the end of the world.
Like, stop it.
But I can't come across that
Stop
way.
that.
And you can't, and the older I get and the more that, I realize that my kids are literally the ages of my airmen coming into the military, I've realized that you have to become much more empathetic. And then vice versa, it goes the other way too, though. Empathy up the chain. There's so much scrutiny on becoming older,
Mm-hmm.
and not in touch with technology
Mm-hmm.
and, not understanding technology and stuff like that. So empathy in a mentor or mentee goes both ways, but I think that's another good quality. And I expanded on kind of why I thought that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say today at work, I taught the like 24-year-old teacher a trick about TikTok that she didn't know. I know. She even looked at me. She's like, "Thanks."
Was it the fast forward?
No.
Oh.
No. It's like we she wanted to turn off the profile views so she could go look at a profile without that person knowing that she
Gotcha.
looked at their profile. And so she was like looking in the settings. I'm like, I think it's just right here. And I showed her and she goes, "Oh, that's amazing." So I was like,
You taught
yeah.
me something. I didn't
So,
even know that people could see that you looked at their profile.
uh-huh.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll have to learn.
No,
Which
I turned
which
it off.
Kylie teaches me TikTok stuff all the time. We were driving the other day, and you know me when I make my TikTok videos, I'm like trying to make them fun and a little over verbose, should you say?
Mm-hmm.
And so she was teaching me how to make those. So yeah, my kids mentor me all the time.
Okay. Yeah, I have yet to have my kids over technology me. Like they can't do it.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah,
Not yet.
so which I'm fine with it. So
No, that's one thing I don't know. That's one thing I get irrationally angry about is people who don't understand technology. Like, I'm like, why are you clicking all over there? Like, what are you doing? So yeah, I get very upset about people who don't
yeah.
figure out technology. You're welcome. Okay, so empathy, vulnerability, and
So
non-judgmental.
yeah, so I think the two other ones that I would add on is um patience and time management. And maybe time management is not the one, but making time, if that makes sense. And
Making
so
time to be available for the
yes,
person.
availability.
Okay,
There we go.
availability.
That's a good way to say it. All right. So patience is really important. And that it really goes to when you have those moments, because again, a lot of the mentor is that unsolicited, but you need to have the patience and watch it grow. And this comes to planting seeds. Part of being a leader and a mentor is not coming in with, you need to do it this way, you need to do it that way, because that just, it comes across blunt. Um, especially when you're, I mean, think about your children and your kids. When you tell them to do something, you know, they're probably not going to do what you tell them to. I mean, well, sorry. How can I say this? They're going to be reluctant. Or if you want them to go in a certain path, they're going to maybe be a little stubborn. And that's the same thing goes with having that patience. When you establish that initial relationship and you realize that you have built that mentor mentee relationship, it's having patience to watch the things that you've said grow, and then vice versa. It's important on the mentee to have patience with that leadership, because a lot of things that we get everything we want at our fingertips today.
Mhm.
We don't take time to let things grow. We don't take times to watch things transpire. And there's those are some of the healthy things that I learned of the patience, especially when you're trying to make plans, when you're trying to make goals. There's appropriate steps. Or within a leadership organization, you people expect change. Change doesn't happen overnight,
Mm-mm.
especially when you're talking about cultural change. And so you have to start planting those seeds and give it the time to grow. And then you just go back and continue to water it. And then the other is availability. So everybody gets busy, everybody. And I had somebody ask me one day, it was again a kind of a peer-to-peer relationship, and they were like, how do you do everything you do? Like, you put so much on your plate. And even Cheryl jokes to me, she says my life is like taking a salad plate to a buffet. She was like, you're always overloading it. And the reality of it is majority of my work life, my work stuff, I get so much done because I build relationships. I spend a good 60 to 75% of my day just talking with people. So am I getting my tasks done? No. But at the same time, when I'm talking with them, the what I receive up becomes much more of a polished, better product. Versus I could just take it, not go and spend my time and educate and talk with them and, try to make them a better person and, get my work done. But that doesn't help them grow. It doesn't help me grow. It doesn't allow me the opportunity to prioritize different things, to adjust things. So I think making sure you have that availability,
Mm-hmm.
um, and not pushing that off. Because when mentees want that mentorship, because we're so used to instant gratification, we want it within a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And the quick way to lose your followers, should you say, is not be available to them.
Right.
And regardless of when that is. And if you're unavailable to them, give them options. Like, explain why you're there. Again, this goes back to what I was talking about, showing your vulnerability. So
Yeah, I can definitely say. So the last spring, I was the fifth grade long-term sub, and there was a creative writing unit, which I love creative writing. So if you get me writing, like I can tell some pretty funny stories, I can add some good characters, like this, that, and the other. And the kids initially really liked it because we started doing this thing and like I had to draw on the board like the images that they were doing. And I'm not like a super great artist, especially on the fly. So I drew this terrible thing. It was awful. Like my octopus, I think only had six legs. Like that, it was bad. Like I was
It's an
like,
insect.
yes, pretty much. So like I'm trying to like do this. I'm trying to inspire them, and they're just like laughing and giggling and all of these things. And I'm like, well, who's gonna write the story about the poor six-legged octopus that wants to have eight legs, but has only a six leg? You know, I was just like, who's gonna write that one? And the kids were like, oh, what? You know, like, so it was even from like those dumb moments, I took the kids and like inspired them to start writing. One kid wrote 14 pages.
That's awesome.
I know, but I had to grade that. But being available, so like I would give the lessons, we would talk about creative writing and all of these things and like the aspects that I'm looking for out of their final projects. And I get them all settled. I get them all writing. And then I was like, yeah, free time for me. Like, let me go plan tomorrow's lesson. So I would go and sit down. And the next thing I knew, I had like five kids at my desk. And I'm like, "Brr, no free time for me. You know, like I have to be available for them right now." So literally they'd be like, is this a good introduction? And so I would read their introduction with them and I'd be like, you didn't even tell me that person's first name. Like, who'd you introduce me to? And
Yeah,
they're like, oh. So, you know, it was like literally having those available moments that made a difference in their writing.
yeah,
And yes, take that for what it's worth. Being available is important.
yeah. Yeah, it's that reminds me. I had a. I'll give you another since we're on stories. But so when I was deployed, my commander at the time, I got put over medical logistics, and the logistics was pretty bad. We had to do what we call report of surveys. We had a bunch of missing supplies. And so he was trying to teach me the ropes. But it was really interesting because I still, this day, I still call him, I still consider him a mentor. But his approach was something that I had never received. And today I call it the dad approach. And the dad approach was it didn't matter how good I did, I could always do something better. So every time that I thought, I was like, man, I got this inventory down and, I got it polished, everything was great. And I went in and gave him this information and he'd be like, yeah, he was like, but you could have done this, this, and this, and this, and this. And he was like, so in a month, you're going to do it again. And so for 6 months, every month I did it. And this is normally just an annual thing. But I loved hindsight, I look back on it and I grew so much because I never felt like I met perfection. And I like that because of the fact that it allowed me to grow. It allowed me to seek and find different ways to do things. So,
Don't accept perfection.
yes,
Not how do you like how do you determine that something's perfect?
nothing's perfect.
Okay, then you're never gonna accept anything you ever do.
No, that's why I'm an orange
That's why I'm
because I'm completely okay with 80% solutions.
no, no, no.
That's why you're gold.
Yeah, it has to be done, and it has to be done well.
Uh, Doing it well is okay, but it's okay with the 80% solution.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, you ever heard that's good enough for government work?
I feel like this is the time or place for that conversation.
It's good enough for
Consider
government work.
technically we both work for the government.
We do.
Hmm.
It's good enough for government work.
No, let me tell you.
80% solution. No, but I think that's healthy.
No,
So
next time.
I use that today though. I really do use the 80% solution. And the reasoning is because if everything is to perfection, if everything is a priority and everything's to perfection, then nothing's important. So you can't prioritize everything. So there's time and place in which you have to be okay with a a finish line.
Okay.
Even because like I am my biggest critic. You're probably your biggest critic. And you hold yourself to a certain level of accountability. But there's a point in which you're like, I'm comfortable with this. I'm satisfied with this. But you know deep down in your head that it could be better. But due to whatever else there is going on, you have to be satisfied with that solution so you can focus on something else. You've prioritized, but your priorities aren't to get everything to perfection.
Yes, because I don't think perfection is actually achievable.
I don't either. That's
No,
fine. It's not what I just said. Didn't I just say
I gotta fight somehow.
that?
But 80, like, I don't know, like 80%. Like, next time I'm doing something that needs to be done and you're yelling at me about it, I'm like, I'm 80% done. And then I'm gonna walk away. Like, if you want that other 20% done, that's on you.
That's, I think that's fair.
Okay.
If you've done 80% of the work and if somebody else wants the other 20% done, at least they have a pretty good polished solution.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with that.
So,
I'm gonna,
and vice versa I think it's the same way for people. You can't hold people to the same standards you hold yourself to.
oh, I don't necessarily always agree with that one.
Really?
No,
Why not?
because like if there's a certain like I if there's a certain way to clean the sink and there's a standard that that sink needs to be cleaned to, you can't hold people accountable to be clean that sink if that standard.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, well there you go.
you're in certain elements, yes, but as a whole, when you're looking at the whole of a person, no,
Okay, well no, you
because
didn't quantify that or
I
qualify that.
didn't, and that's why I explained. But if you're looking at a whole of a person, and I think that's another mistake that in leaders and people that want to be mentors, etc., is they try to make somebody who they are. You see this, you also see this in parents a lot with their children. They're trying to make their children who they wanted to be or who they think they should be.
Mm-hmm.
And so that becomes a problem. That becomes a barrier in that relationship. And the same goes with work relationships. You know, when you're trying to force that person to be that person, or you're holding them to a standard that's unobtainable, and it could be multi-factored why it's unattainable. It could be unattainable because you haven't given them the tools, you haven't given them the time, they don't have the knowledge set, they don't look at things the same way you do, you know. So that's where I go back to that, what I call that dad approach is take the solution, be grateful for the product that you got. Don't don't judge them or don't criticize them, and instead use it as a mentor moment. You know, take it as a moment and say, you know, great job. I'm going to move forward with this one. Next time, you know, let's sit down and talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not they walk away feeling successful. You've opened up an opportunity for the next engagement,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't criticize them publicly or privately.
Right. And so, I mean, something that I thought about while you were talking was like, as a mom and a teacher, I have found that like approaching children, especially in a setting with lots of children, because I'm around children a lot. Um, Sometimes even like the simplest of questions, they get very defensive about it because they think they've done something wrong or that you're going to be angry at the answer or they're going to shy away from it. Like they don't want to admit whatever they're doing because they're worried they're going to get in trouble for it. But like if I ask a question and like I look at body language or I look at like if they shut their laptops real quick, if they just, if there's something that they have done that makes me think that maybe they're nervous about the truth and nervous about giving me the truth, like I always take a step back and I'm like, hey, you're not in trouble. Like, I'm not mad at you. I'm never going to get mad at you to the point where I'm yelling at you. I'm not mad at you. There's nothing here that's going to get you in trouble, but I just need to know. Like, I just need to know what's going on so either I can help or course correct.
Yeah.
And that brings those walls and barriers down real quick. So that's like a really good approach that I have with people. It's just like I'm not there's nothing in this world that's going to make me so mad at you that I'm going to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Are we going to have a course correction conversation? Yes, we are. Are you going to like it? I don't care. But I'm not going to yell, I'm not going to get upset. But yes, we're going to talk about whatever's happening right
Yeah,
now.
defense mechanisms, you see that, yeah, quite often, which I think brings up the we were talking about qualities. I think it brings up another quality I would add is authenticity. And when I explain that in authenticity, it's just there's a difference in authenticity in a one-on-one relationship, and there's a different, and then versus how you portray yourself publicly. And what do I mean by that? As a leader and as a mentor, part of your role is protecting your people. Part of your role as a father is protecting your family. Part of your role as a husband is protecting your wife. You know, that so part of that is protecting your people. And there's so many times that I've seen leaders and mentors or said mentors that are quickly to throw their own people under the bus or quickly, publicly berate them, and that again is another way to just lose that authenticity and that support. So, if I'm going to provide you this in private, by God, I'm going to protect you in public, you know? So I think that's really important.
Yeah. No, I think that, I mean, I don't think I've experienced that to a level where you're discussing. So I don't have any really good antidotes or anything about that. Um, so yeah, maybe that's another topic for another conversation, unless you have more to add to
Nope.
it. Okay.
Good.
Um, let's see. Oh, how has the concept of mentoring changed in today's digital or remote first world?
You know, I think it's actually helped because again, instant gratification society, it allows for ability anytime, anywhere to be able to connect. And it allows you to connect where you can actually see that face. And I think that's really important to make sure you see that face. On the flip side of it, though, I think that it's also made some of that mentor relationship, again, transactional.
Hmm.
And some of that transactional feedback is, because they can text you and then you respond back in text, that emotions can come down and get lost in context. And so, or it becomes just the easy button.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's really important that, again, part of being a mentor and mentee is guiding along the way. And it's walking together. And it's not this, I need this from you, you give this to me. I give this to you, you give this to me. That's not a healthy relationship when it comes to it. Like you walk the path together. So I think that's how the digital age has helped,
Hmm.
but also kind of hurt. So I
Right.
think you just need to be aware of that and what is the appropriate use of technology at the appropriate.
So, something I have found difficult when I'm giving advice to people is sometimes I don't know how, like, you made the correlation to this of being walking together. Sometimes, as like, I help other moms, that's mainly a lot of my world is talking to other moms and discussing um, raising children. And a lot of the time, I am unsure of am I giving too much information where they're not ready to walk with me at the pace I'm going? So, like, as a mentor, I've already walked the path they're going. Like, I've already done it, I've
Yep.
already taken those steps. But, like, how do you find in a professional world, how do you find that balance of they can't run at the pace I ran at? So, how do I take this back? How do I understand the pace that they're able to go?
Yeah, I think it's meeting them where they're at. So again, majority of the relationships are not codified. They're unsolicited. And I think what you're describing there is you provide feedback, whether it's solicited or not, you're still providing feedback. But I think the next piece for you in this situation, or for me, and that's any situation, is to figure out where they're at. Because you then can start to walk alongside them and, you know, or in some cases, I think it's important figuring out where they're at, meeting them where they're at, providing that advice. But then if the advice is not received or you don't see that step forward, then that's all it was. And that's where it comes into that patience. You may not see that step forward. It's it's glaring us right in the face. We know what needs to be done, like because we've walked it, we've lived it, we, know what that next step is. But for whatever reason, again, that person or that individual, they choose that next step. So that's what I mean by walking alongside them. When you see that step, you step with them.
Okay.
And so that's kind of my advice.
Okay. That's good. Um, has there been a lesson you've learned from a mentee that has surprised you?
Mm, yeah. So I'd say the lessons from a mentee. I'm gonna have to talk about my children.
Okay.
So I learned so much from my children. I learn the things that stick that I don't think stick. It's the moment in time and the things that they remember. Um, it's the the those are probably the things that surprise me the most. And then the other ones that I would say surprise me, and I think this is what fuels me today. Um, the first time this ever happened, I brand new lieutenant, and I had a what they call a senior NCO. She was a master sergeant. She was looking to retire, and she hadn't finished her degree yet. And she was like, "Well, I'm going to go back to school afterwards." So she spent almost 20 years in the military, hadn't taken advantage of the educational. And I was a young lieutenant, and I was like, it was one afternoon, late in the afternoon, and I just told her, I was like, hey, I was like, I wouldn't hit that retirement button until you get your degree. I was like, it's paid for. Look at the money, situation. I said, because if you don't, I was like, you say you don't want to come back in the government, but this is the only place that's going to be able to give you equal pay without this degree. And so she went on to another assignment. She called me 3 years later and she told me she was retiring. And she said, "Do you remember that conversation we had?" She was like, "I finished my degree." And again, I didn't, I wasn't paying attention. I mean, I wasn't paying attention along the way. I gave her this unsolicited
Yeah.
advice. And during that time, I started seeing more and more of that. And I think that's what fueled me. And I think that was some of my bigger surprises is I have the people that, call me mentors. I have people, younger people that I'm guiding and through their careers and stuff like that. It's a very professional relationship, but I think the ones that are that the moments in time, and there's actually a book called The Power of Moments. Um, I think it's Chip and Dan Terry. They're brothers, but it talks about that in that book. It's called The Power of Moments, and I think that's really important. Is take advantage of those moments because those moments are going to be what changes that person's life, and you don't even realize it.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what else you've done?
That's true.
Hmm.
Sure. Hopefully, it's all good. I
Right?
don't want to get those bad calls and be like, "Oh, I
No,
did
I
this."
know. This is gonna go public and go viral. All of a sudden, people are gonna come out of the woodwork being like, I followed this and it was awful. Like, hopefully those people have already reached out to tell you something
Well,
like,
if you do reach out and it's all negative, I will publicly apologize,
there you go.
and I will recant my statements.
No, yeah, you never know. Because I mean, as you were talking, I was thinking about some of the life advice like I tried to embrace, and there has definitely been life advice that probably wasn't the greatest life advice to embrace. And it probably took me longer than I wanted to get out of that mentality and then change course to
Okay.
better fit who I am.
Okay.
So again, there's a time and place for understanding what's good for you and what's not good for you.
That's very true.
Yes.
True. I think I've spent majority of my adult life, I would say, trying to undo things that I thought was right
Mhm.
in my youthful age, I guess you'd say. Um, so I mean, and again, I think it goes back to your values, your boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
um, what you consider your what's right,
Yep.
which direction. And so right is not always the same path for everyone.
Mm-mm.
I coined this phrase that, managing projects is super easy. It's cut and dry. There's a way you do a project. It's straightforward.
You only do it 80% though.
That's true. That's because I have somebody else doing it for me. Just saying. Um, but it's easy. Managing people is difficult, and the saying that you know you can manage everybody the same, that's not true.
Mm-mm.
You can't mentor everybody the same. You can't expect that. Like people are dynamic. That's the fun of it. They come with different challenges. They come with different opinions. They come with different emotions. So
Yeah, and I think a power to being a mentor is understanding and maybe having a really good understanding of that person's background and where they come from. Like if you're trying to mentor them and then they come out with this like bombshell of a story where you're like, oh, whoa,
yeah,
slow up. Where, what happened? Like, I'm gonna cater my advice a little differently to you if you've had like X, Y, and Z happen in your
yeah.
past.
Well, I had a mentor tell me once. This is advice that I still sticks with me. Um, and she's the golden rule: treat others as you want to be treated. And she always said she was like, well, there's the platinum. She was like, you don't treat others as you want to be treated because maybe they don't want to be treated the same way you are. You treat others as they want to be treated.
Oh, I'm gonna fight with you about that later.
And so I liked it. It was in the context of talking about introverts and extroverts.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole purpose was, if I'm an extra, I'm a big extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I want to be treated is I want to be surrounded by people, and I want attention,
Mm-hmm.
and I want social gathering. I don't like being alone. Like those are things about me. So when you you on the other side, an introvert, so you need downtime. You want to be left alone. Your way of recharging is different than my way of recharging. My way of recharging is reaching out to you and talking to you, and having that advice. Your way of recharging is, being left alone, So in that case, that's what I mean by that. I can't treat you the same way I want to be treated
Mm-hmm.
because that's just going to continue to drain you.
Right.
That's that's what the platform. So now that I've justified, do you still want to fight me?
Yeah,
Okay.
because let's go. Just for our viewers' sake, we've had a lot of conversations where we end up fighting about things. And this is conversations going really well. I think this is one of our better conversations,
We
but
challenge each other, man.
no, no, no. I fight. I don't
We
really
learn
fight
from each other.
dirty. Oh, sure.
We
I
grow.
just learned how to fight. But
Debate.
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 No, because it goes back to, I mean, our episode towards the beginning of our podcast was about love languages. And I got into a pretty good debate with you before that podcast about how like love languages are one, bullshit, but two, like just because you think you know a love language, like you would often do things that you thought was showing love to people because that's how you wanted to, or you were showing kindness or caring. And I often fought against those things that you were doing because I was just like, I can open my own door. It's dumb things like that. Like I can open the like door to the store just as well as you can. And so when you're like, there's a platinum rule where other people want you to treat them differently than you want to be treated. And now, like, you're going to accept that I'm going to open the door to the store.
No, I'm still not.
See, you're
That's
going back on your own
no,
words.
that's against my
I
values.
don't care. What is against my values to let you open that door?
There's a difference.
No,
Yeah, there is.
I'm just going to wait.
You treat others as they want to be treated.
I don't want to. I don't want you to open the door for me.
Yeah, but
Mm-mm.
yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm still gonna open the door.
Yeah, I'll step on your
Still gonna
like.
carry the stuff.
Nope.
It's just simply becoming a gentleman, being from the South.
No. No, no. Yeah, well, I'm still gonna fight you.
We've been fighting for years on this
Yeah,
topic.
we will continue to fight about it because I'm right and you're wrong. Hmm.
Okay with losing that argument
Yeah,
every
no,
time I
you're
open
not.
the door.
Yeah, I know. I
You
know you're not okay with losing
don't
it.
have to walk through the door.
I'm gonna, no, I don't. I'm gonna find new doors. You want to go to that restaurant? Have fun. I'm going to a different one. He opened the door? No, thank you. I'll open the different door. Oh, no, I'm just gonna purposefully show up 10 minutes late every single time. So you will already
I'm,
be to
I'm,
wherever we're
have
going.
you met my wife?
Oh, that's right. I have to be 20 minutes early and
Yeah,
then
I was gonna say, I'm already gonna be late. So the fact that you show up 10 minutes late, we'll just be on time.
yeah, it's just yeah, I'm just gonna start telling you different times like I did on our UK trip.
I do the same thing to Cheryl.
Um,
I tell her different times all the time.
mhm. Yeah,
That way we're on time when she thinks we're early or we're late. It's all over the place.
all over the place. Yeah, no, that's what I'm
And
gonna do.
the biggest is when I tell her in military time, still this day, 22 years, still talk military. She's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's so funny. I mean, she knows what it means, but she has to do the math and think
Oh,
about it, and
okay.
she's just like, why can't you tell me it was 7 p.m.? And I'm like, but it's
That's not,
1900.
yeah, no, living in Europe, they do a 24-hour clock. So yeah, that cured me of
I like
questioning
military
like
time. It makes much more sense,
it does.
especially when you're texting, because I don't have to put the little colons or the dots or put the PMs or anything. It's easy. It's four things every time.
Okay.
If you ever noticed when I text
Congratulations.
stuff,
Oh,
I
I
always text
notice
military
all the
time.
time,
So,
but I don't mind doing the PM. It's cute. Let's see. Any other that's, I guess we can end with what's one piece of advice you would give your younger self if you were just starting your journey?
mm, seek mentorship more often. I I didn't, and I still struggle with this today. It is really hard for me to trust people, and I think that's just rooted in me as a person. So it takes a lot for me to trust somebody, but when I trust somebody, I trust them hard. And so if I was to give my young self is trust people more, seek mentorship more, and don't be scared to talk about your failures. I felt as if a failure defined me.
Hmm.
And I I mean I was scared of failure. I mean I was absolutely scared of failure, even though I'd failed so many times. I felt the weight of the world. I felt the weight of my family. I felt all that weight on my shoulders. And I felt, you know, so I never had a way to express that to anybody. So I just kind of bottled that in. So I think if, and I probably still to this day give myself the same advice because I still struggle with those areas.
That's good advice. I guess one piece of advice I'd give to somebody who is young is don't rush. Like, take your time, figure out who you are slowly. Like, there's no rush. You're in no hurry to make those decisions or get on that bandwagon or this bandwagon or follow this person because they have good catchwords or this, like just take your time. There's no hurry.
That's very true.
Yep. And with that,
Cheers.
cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Unfiltered Duo podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who might enjoy it too. You can follow us on all social media platforms for updates, behind the scenes, and more content. Got questions, feedback, or a topic you'd love for us to cover? Reach out at unfilteredduopodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep listening.